What is up, boys and girls? It's your boy Jade, aka the Shirtless Coder. I'm losing a bit of muscle, actually, to be honest, so I need to go back to the gym. But let's take a recap of what we did in episode 1. So if you can remember, in episode 1, we tried to complete step 1. Now, the video was pretty long. There wasn't any, like, Subway Surfer or anything like that, so I can understand if you kind of skipped everything. So let's just go over some of the code. I actually went ahead and modified the code a bit, and I was going to include it in this episode, but I figured it would be a bit too long. So if you remember, we went ahead and implemented our first command, which was init. And as you can see here in our main file, we actually parse the different commands, and we're using something called clap to take care of this, so we can have this kind of pattern and just use rust match. So with init, we can pass in the name of the repository that we would like and an optional description. And we have a create called handler, which will take all of our handlers, and specifically this handle init. So handle init, what it does, will create all of the necessary files and directories. And I'll get into this a bit later, but it'll return a result of either nothing to indicate success or a handler error. Now, in the previous episode, I kind of had individual methods for each of the creation of things. So I had one for creating the Rgit directory, as well as creating the specific head file, etc. But I went ahead and created a utils file, which just took care of this myself. So as you can see here, create file, which I'm using multiple times, and create directory. Also something to note here within the create directory, I'm just going to go ahead and take and pass it the full path that I want to be created and potentially either recursively. I also went ahead and added an exist check because, as you might know, like, I don't want to do rgit init in an existing repository. So you can go ahead and we can actually run this, cargo run this, and everything should just work. Actually, in fact, here is a good example. I already have example here. So let's go ahead and remove the example and we'll run it here, and we have example. And you can see here we have the rgit and we have the necessary files. So that's just a recap of what we did in episode 1. So in this episode, we're going to actually take care of step 2. And this is a bit complicated. I'm still reading a little bit about this, but essentially we're going to be tackling creating the index file, which ultimately is the way that Git tracks changes. Now they have some documentation here about how the Git file index file is formatted, and just for reference so that you can see, we can actually take a look at the index file. Let's actually take a look here. So you can see the dir, dirc here, and a bunch of gobbledygook. Actually, in fact, it has like a file names and a bunch of things here. So it's a bit confusing, but that's what we're going to be creating. So bear with me because this might actually be a bit complicated and I'm definitely going to get things wrong. So the first thing we're going to need to take care of is within our init, we're going to actually need to create the index file. And the index file is going to need the appropriate header, which you can find on this this documentation here. The header contains a 4-byte signature, which is dirc, 4-byte version number, which right now we're just going to put as 2, and the number of entries, index entries, which for at the moment we're just going to put as 0. So thinking about this a little bit more, I actually am going to go ahead and change this, and you will see why in a bit. So I'm going to create a crate called models, and I'll add a file mod.rs, and I'm going to go ahead in here, and I'm going to mod models here. So I actually think what could be a clever idea, instead of having all of these file paths, etc., just being hanging out there, I can go ahead and represent my repository within a particular struct. And for the index file, I can also use that within a struct. And so I have some object representation within the code, and it's easier to manage. So let's go ahead and actually take care of that. So I'm going to call this like repo or rgit repo.rs. And in here, let me just check how I do it here. So I have mod and then this. So I'm going to call this mod rgit repo, and then I'm going to use pub use rgit repo star. Okay, so unused import, yeah, whatever. So I'm actually going to do, let me just, sometimes I need to just like use these just so I can end up seeing. So I'm going to do derive debug, and I'm going to do pub struct rgit repo. Now the rgit repo is going to have the main directory path. Actually, what we're going to have is we're going to have this, the name, which is going to be a string. We will have a the directory path, dir path, which will equal being, I think if we do like a path, maybe type supports a number of operations. I think that could be okay. Okay, another thing, and maybe this is unnecessary, but I'm going to create a trait called repo, and this trait is going to have a function called init, which will take a name, which is going to be a path buff, and a description, which is going to take an option string, and this will return a result, maybe an error. Let's see, I think let's do error, which is this type of error here and here. So we'll have this init. Okay, this will also have description, which is going to be a string. Now implement repo for rgit repo. And name, which will be path buff. And description, this will be option string. And we'll do a result of self error. And cannot be known at compilation time. The size for the values of you can be not known. Let's do path buff. Okay. So what we will do is we will handle init, which will check if it exists. Okay. So check if it exists. I think these constants actually can be moved to here, so we can actually move them here. We don't need them to be anywhere else. Okay. Now, okay, we'll do let's dir path equals name.join Rgit directory name. If Rgit directory path exists, then we can return error already exist error. Okay, so if it already exists, then otherwise what we're going to do is we're going to create dir, which is, we're just going to create dir. No, I want to be able, is it not here? Okay, so the full path is going to be rgit as path, and then this is going to be true, and then I need to just map the error, and we're just going to this is E, and this will be, let me see how I did this. So I mapped it like that, and we'll just end up returning a error, create directory error, and the message will be format of fail to create rgit directory, and we'll do error here, and this. Okay, so you have the create directory here. Oh no, here. Then we have the create file. Okay, now that I've taken care of that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, instead, I don't need this, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this, because I honestly don't need this. And I'm going to do rgit repo init and the description. Okay, so already exists error, then this handler, this. Okay, then we don't actually need this. Yes, we do not need this, and the errors are fine. This, now this should, to be honest, work, I think. There we go. Okay, let's see. Examples, is that already there? Okay, then we will do this. Okay. It hooks this. Okay. Okay, so now I actually have a repository, and I can just call init. That's like so much cleaner. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we have this. We can also create an index file. So the index file we're going to create just in here, index.rs. So we're going to end up creating pub struct index, and we're going to do this mod index pub use index star. Okay, let's do, so we have like version number, version, which is an integer. We have the number of objects as well, right? So we have this, we have the number of entries, num entries, so 32-bit number, num entries, and, okay, oops. Okay, and then, oh wait, U32, and we'll do U32, and unsigned, and we will do derive this debug. Okay, so we'll have an index, and we'll also have probably the directory, which will have dir path, which will be a path buff, a path buffer. Okay, so now when we have this, we'll have index init, and we'll have a constant index header header starter, which is going to be a static string, which will equal, I think it's just like dirc oh wait, signature. Okay, this is signature header signature dirc. Okay, well, another thing that I don't even need num entries. I can do, so we're going to do this, and we're going to have this, and we're going to pub struct index entry, which is going to equal this, and we'll do this to do later. We'll actually do a vector of index entry. Actually, I'm gonna move this up here, and then we're just going to do this, which is going to be entries, which is going to equal vec new. Okay, so then we'll have like write entry, etc. Okay, actually, so then we're going to actually have just a pub trait called index, and it's going to be pub function init, and we're going to have this. Actually, kind of prefer this way. So the qualifiers are not permitted. Previous definition of the trait index here. We'll call it Rgit index, and we'll do implement index for Rgit index. Okay. And this is now struct Rgit index here. Okay. Unnecessary this. Okay, cool. And we'll also have a function called add entry. So we'll do mute self. Oh wait, we'll do this is sized. Mute self. And we'll do entry. And this will be an index entry. Says if not all traits implemented, we'll do this function add entry, and we'll do to do. Okay, we will worry about that later. So basically, we're going to end up using a crate called byte order, which allows us to write the U32 bits into it. So the first thing is we're also going to have the 4-byte signature, which is 32 bits. We're going to have dir. So we wrote that at first. We're going to have the version number. So we'll do that 4-byte version number, which we'll just do big endian, do version. And then we're going to also write the number of entries, which right now is just going to be 0, 0. This is going to be number of entries, which is 0 at the moment. And we're going to do this, and we'll do index content dot slice, I think. No, splice as slice. What does this do? Okay, what if we did this? We did this. This, and then we did this, which is create file none, which we'll just do this, and then this. Which will equal nothing, and this description bytes, well, description dot as ref dot map or, which is going to be this and this, and description. There we go. Okay. This might be a bad way of doing things, but whatever. Don't think I have anything else here. Okay. Then index path buff root directory expected path dot as path. Okay. So I think this creates the file and with the context. And so then we're going to go into here. Why do I have warnings here? Path is here. And we're going to have this. And we're going to have index, wait, Rgit index this. Now, when we do this, I will have create file, this. We'll have let index equals index, Rgit index init. And the root directory will be Rgit directory path. The version will be 2. Dot map error And we'll do E, which will do I don't even remember what this error is actually. What is the error? I just did an error. Yeah, actually, I don't even know if we need to do that. We can just do this, I think. And then we have index here. Pretty sure use a move, use clone. Wait, actually, I think we can just pass this in as a reference. We don't need to own it. Pathbuf found pathbuf, and this can be this. Oh, root has incompatible type traits, and this can be here. This. Also, though, I'm curious, what is here? No, this is fine. Okay, and this, we'll do this. Number of entries, create file. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, now let's just like try it. It doesn't have that, so let's do this. Okay. Get cd, let's index cat index. Cat index. So it has that, but I don't know why it's not writing the other contents. It does have that, but why is it not writing the other contents? Maybe when I'm catting it, maybe if I do it again, it'll work. Shift H, index. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell if this is right or not.